Math Chapter 11, Geometry and Fraction Concepts. Today we're looking at Lesson 11.9, Show Equal Parts of a Whole. This builds upon yesterday's lesson, and we're beginning to learn more about fractions. For today's lesson, all you need is your math workbook and a pencil. Make sure you have those in front of you now. Let's start by looking at the Listen and Draw section. The directions say, circle the shapes that show equal parts. Go ahead and look through each of those shapes and circle only the ones that have equal parts. I'll give you a moment and then I'll show you the answers. You should have circled these three shapes. The circle has 2 equal parts or halves. The square has 4 equal parts or fourths. And the rectangle has 4 equal parts or fourths. Check your work over. All right, let's take a look at the I can statement for today's lesson. I know if a shape shows halves, thirds, or fourths. Make sure you're on the model and draw page with me now. It says you can draw to show equal parts of a whole. Halves are 2 equal parts, like the circle example. There are 2 halves in a whole. Thirds have 3 equal parts. There are 3 thirds in a whole. Fourths have 4 equal parts. There are 4 fourths in a whole. So look closely at each of those because today we're going to be practicing drawing or showing halves, thirds, and fourths. Let's take a look at the share and show section. Our directions say to draw to show equal parts. Number 1 wants us to show thirds. They've done this example for us, so we can just trace the lines to show 3 equal parts or thirds. Thirds can be a little bit tricky to draw. Number 2 says they want us to split this circle in halves. Well, remember, halves are 2 equal parts. So it would look like this. I know there's more than one way to draw that line to show halves in a circle. But go ahead and follow along with me for the share and show section. And then when you get to the on your own, you can try some different ways. Number 3 says we need to divide this rectangle into fourths, 4 equal parts. Here's how I did it. Remember, fourths has 4 equal parts. For number 4, we need to show halves. And again, there's more than one way I could do this. However, I practiced it by drawing a diagonal line to show 2 equal halves, 2 equal parts. Make sure you're taking your time drawing your lines. You want them to look neat so that they show equal parts. Number 5 says we need to divide this circle into fourths, 4 equal parts. Here's how I drew that one. And number 6 says we're dividing the rectangle into thirds, 3 equal parts. I told you thirds can be the trickiest to draw. You have to kind of visualize it in your head and find where it would be. So here's my thirds. Go ahead and make sure you have all 6 of the share and show questions completed. Let's take a look at the on your own section. Again, the directions say draw to show equal parts. So for each of these shapes, make sure you read what they would like you to divide them into. Is it halves, thirds, or fourths? And remember, there can be more than one right answer. So go ahead, hit pause, complete numbers 7 through 15, and when you're ready to check your work, hit play. Remember, my answers might not be the same as yours, and that's okay. Go ahead and hit pause. All right, you should have completed your on your own section and hit play. Here are my answers. I know you might have a different way of showing halves, thirds, or fourths on yours, and that's okay. If you are having trouble with any of them, you can look at mine and use them as a guide to help you complete it. So take a moment and check yours over. Again, they don't need to match mine, but if you needed help with one of them, you can use mine. If you need more time, hit pause now. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next question. The last on your own question says, does this shape show thirds? Well, remember, thirds are 3 equal parts. Looking at that square, there are 3 parts, but are they equal? Are they the same? Definitely not. So when I explain that, I want to say, no, there are not 3 equal parts. Remember in yesterday's lesson, I told you that word equal is very important. They need to be equal to be thirds or halves or fourths. So go ahead and copy that sentence down onto your paper. No, there are not 3 equal parts. All right, let's move on to the problem solving section. Here's our first problem. I'm going to follow my cube steps, just like we've practiced all year long for word problems. The question says, Colton and 3 friends want to share a pizza equally. Draw to show how the pizza should be divided. Let's read that one more time and think about it as we're reading. Colton and 3 friends want to share a pizza equally. Draw to show how the pizza should be divided. All right, so there wasn't a question mark, but I did underline what I have to do. Draw to show how the pizza should be divided. So make sure you've underlined that. That's how we're going to show our work. And then I boxed up the first sentence. Colton and 3 friends want to share a pizza equally. Let's think about this now. Let's do our evaluate. How many people are actually having pizza? Careful, it's not just the 3 friends. You need to include Colton too. So there's 3 friends and Colton for a total of 4 people. So if 4 people are sharing a pizza equally, I would need to divide it into 4 equal parts or fourths. So let's go ahead and make 4 equal parts or 4 fourths in that pizza. All right. Let's take a look at our next problem. It says there are 2 square pizzas. Each pizza is cut into fourths. How many pieces of pizza are there? Let's read that one more time. There are 2 square pizzas. Each pizza is cut into fourths. How many pieces of pizza are there? Were you kind of envisioning in your head the 2 square pizzas chopped into 4 slices? All right, well, let's follow our cube steps. I underlined the question, how many pieces of pizza are there? And then I boxed up my key information, 2 square pizzas, and each pizza is cut into fourths. Make sure you've done that now to your word problem. So think about how we can solve this. We're going to draw a picture. We know there are 2 pizzas that are shaped like squares. So I'm going to start by drawing 2 squares. And then each of those pizzas is cut into fourths, 4 equal pieces. So I'm drawing 2 square pizzas and cutting them into fourths, just like that. I'll give you a moment. Go ahead and do your drawing as well. When you're done, count up the number of slices or pieces. How many equal pieces of pizza are there? Once you've done that, you should have counted 8 pieces. 8 pieces of pizza. All right, time to move on to our last question. It says, fill in the bubble next to the shapes that show thirds. Explain your answer. All right, again, thirds mean they have to be 3 equal parts. So let's look at each of these carefully. The first rectangle has 3 parts, and they're all equal. They're all the same. So I'm going to fill that one in. Look at the square next. There are 3 parts, but are they equal? Are they the same? Nope. How about the circle? I have 3 parts, and yes, they're all equal. So I'm going to fill in the circle. And last, let's look at that rectangle. There are 3 parts, however, notice that bottom one's much bigger than the other 2, so they are not equal. So I filled in the first one and the third one. Now, how do I explain it? Well, just like I've written all my other explanations. They have 3 equal parts. Remember that word equal. Very important in this chapter. All right. Once you've done that and copied down the explanation, you are ready for the homework. Keep up the great work.